Hey, it's Alex Goad, and I'm back today with another 10x Your Life capsule, and we're going to continue talking about energy. Not just energy though, undeniable energy. The kind of energy that allows you to do whatever you want. So the stakes are pretty darn high. Now, a lot of people think that physical energy is good for doing sports, for getting a lot of to-dos done during the day, but there's more to it than that. If you want to change your life, if you want to change your habits, if you want to be fully present, if you want to be able to engage, indeed, if you want to be able to express the top level of your intellectual capacity, of your uniqueness as a human being, and of your goodness and desire to care for yourself and others and the world at large, all of those things are going to need energy. And here's how to get a ton of it. So, in the last video, I mentioned that there were 3 different types of energy, and the first and easiest one to treat is actually physical energy because it's very straightforward. And you're going to see that you can actually measure how much energy that you have, and you can take very concrete steps like adjusting the foods that you eat, exercising in different ways, and one of the other things that we're going to talk about at the end of this video, which is taking supplements. These are my personal stack, which I call the Energy 7, and I'm going to cover them with you at the end of this video. Alright, so let's start with the top 3 positive factors that give you energy, or that can give you energy. Number 1 is food and nutrition. So that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. I'm not going to talk about it more in this quick introduction. The second factor, or the second top positive factor in terms of giving you energy, is physical stimulation. I call it like that. You could call it exercise, but I prefer to call it physical stimulation because really, if you look at it from the standpoint of burning calories and killing yourself in the gym and all of that, it gives you a totally wrong approach that's often counterproductive. Whereas if you look at it as, what's the minimum that I can do so that I can get in there and hack my vitality and even hack my genetic code so that it expresses something better, aka in this case more energy, well, that's what we're going to be talking about. And finally, the third positive factor is to figure out your best way to rest and recuperate. You need to get enough sleep. You need to let things calm down from the constant excitement that we tend to experience in the modern world. And you need to make this a system so that you can go really, really fast sometimes, and then you can slow down to an almost total crawl and shut your brain off and really just get some relaxation in there. Both of them are dependent one on another. All right, what are the top 3 negative factors, or the energy sinkholes that are going to rob you of the vitality that you need so that you can live your life according to your own terms? Well, the first one is inflammation. Now, when we think about inflammation, we think about how our ankle swells up if we sprain it. But the truth about this kind of inflammation is very different. It's kind of the stacking of tiny little bits of inflammation that are often called subclinical inflammation, meaning that you can't really see it, but it's there. And it's behind all of the chronic diseases of aging. So if you think about heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes, cancer, all of those are rooted in inflammation. But one of the bigger things that's rooted in inflammation, and that happens long before you get sick from any of those things, is your energy starts tanking. The second negative factor is environmental pollutants and toxins. And when I'm saying pollutants, I don't necessarily mean, for example, automobile exhaust, although that certainly doesn't help. But pollutants may be things from light. They may be things that are leaching from our environment, from our couches, from our mattresses, that may be in our deodorant, in our shampoos, but very specifically in the foods that we eat. That's a very, very big deal. And finally, the other negative factor that really tanks your energy is metabolic dysfunction. So metabolic dysfunction, you might just think of it as being overweight, but it's more than being overweight. It's not being a little bit overweight sometimes. It's really when that becomes a chronic condition, and then when you try to lose weight, when you do the right things and the weight doesn't really come off, that's because the metabolism itself has been damaged or downgraded to the point where it doesn't work in its normal way anymore. And it's really simple. Here's a simple way of looking at this. What is the excess weight that we carry around on our bodies? Well, That's energy that you're consuming and that instead of being used up by your cells in your body and your brain are being put into storage. And we only need to store so much before it starts becoming problematic. So you can attack metabolic dysfunction and you can really hack into it, and that's one of the things that we're going to talk about when we get to the exercise portion of energy, is that you can reverse that and you can do it in a very purposeful manner so that it's done quickly and far less painfully than most people would have you believe. Okay, so let's get into really today's subject, which is food and supplements that you can take to really increase the level of energy that you have. Also, I'm going to humbly talk to you about the best diet in the world, which is the one that I followed and largely came up with myself. So let's talk about food. So first of all, you have metabolism. So like we just said, the way that your body uses the calories that you put into it are largely related to metabolism. If your metabolism is strong and fast, well, normally you have a lot of energy from morning till night as long as you're fueling your body. If your metabolism is slow, you probably have low thyroid function, you probably have lower levels of several hormones, and you probably feel sluggish a lot of the times. And one of the side effects of this is that you end up carrying excess weight on your body. And as time goes by, this gets worse and worse and worse. And actually, this is one of the things that contributes to low levels of health and vitality, is that your cells and your organs simply are not getting the energy that you're putting in your mouth when you eat. It's going somewhere else. It's being stored on your stomach, on your chest, and your legs, and your butt. So hacking into your metabolism, there's several different ways to do it, but food is really a giant deal. Now, the most simple way of looking at this is that large amounts of fast carbs will be the fastest way to break your metabolism because they create insulin surges in your body, and eventually what that means is that you become insulin resistant, and insulin is the hormone that basically signals to the cells that, hey, there's energy available here, let the energy into the cell. Well, when that stops working properly, the cells start not getting the energy, and then that energy, those calories, circulate in the body until eventually they end up being stored somewhere where you'd rather they not be stored. Okay, another big thing about food is that the food that you eat is going to be extremely relevant to your gut health. Now, this is something that I studied extensively when creating supplements for a former business that I had, which was a very large natural health business where we served between 50 and 100,000 clients. I can't remember exactly, it was a couple years ago. But what I discovered when doing that research is that researchers have found that you can actually predict chronic fatigue syndrome just by looking at someone's gut flora. And when it reaches a certain level, when the gut flora becomes toxic to a certain level, that's when we say that person has chronic fatigue syndrome. But when you're under that threshold of having an actual labeled condition, you may still have the same exact kind of dysbiosis or digestive problem or problem being caused by your gut flora that's making you tired, but it's just subclinical. So you eat the wrong things in too high a quantity and you take antibiotics, and we've all taken antibiotics and we all continue to take antibiotics because it's in our meat, it's in our water supply, it's in so many things that we don't even suspect. And doing that adversely affects our gut health and makes it so that the bacteria there produce toxins and produce substances that make us tired. So when you fix that, when you start eating the right things, the bad bacteria start reducing in number and the good bacteria start going up in numbers, and all of a sudden you're more healthy and you have more vitality and you have more energy. Okay. Brain fog and fatigue are two of the biggest side effects of a poor quality diet. So research has shown that the number of calories that you eat is actually less important than the quality of the foods that you eat. And there's a whole bunch of different theories on diet and what you should be eating and what you shouldn't be eating. And The one that I'm going to recommend to you in a minute is the one that I've come up with because I've tested it on myself and probably hundreds, if not thousands or tens of thousands of other people, and it's the one that I've seen that gives the best results all around. But I can tell you that I used to suffer from horrible brain fog, and it was so bad that I couldn't really count on myself. I couldn't make a commitment and then know that at that hour on that day I would be able to show up. Sometimes the time would come and I would walk in there and it didn't matter. I could have 4 or 5 coffees. I could do jumping jacks. I could slap myself in the face. I could do whatever I wanted and I would just sit there and be dull. So for example, I'd show up for an interview and oh man, I'm boring. I have nothing to say. My brain is like a quarter turn behind and guy asks questions and I just don't have the answer, or I have boring, uninspired answers. And that can be tremendously costly. And the same thing in terms of fatigues. You know, you try to make plans and you tell yourself you're going to do better, you try to create new habits, and then when it comes time to make that shift, you got nothing in the tank. Well, if you want to always have your mind be sharp as a tack and you always want to have some in the tank, follow the best diet in the world. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And finally, I won't spend too much time on it because we already talked about it, but inflammation. The foods that you eat either reduce the inflammation in your body or they trigger inflammation in your body. And what modern science tends to show is that a lot of grains, a lot of dairy, and especially fried foods and franken foods and pesticides and that kind of stuff, all of those things trigger inflammation in the body. The more inflammation you have in the body, the more likely you are to die in the near future. Scientists for a long time said that cholesterol was the best predictor of a heart attack, but actually there's far more correlated predictors than that, and inflammation is one of them. In fact, inflammation is the number one. So there's a test that you can order that's called a C-reactive protein test, and if you score very low on there, it means you have low inflammation in your body, so it means you're healthy, you're doing well. But if you have very high inflammation and you score high on that test, it's really bad news, and it means that free radicals from the environment are damaging your body in a disproportionate manner and you're really exposed. But not only that, you probably have low energy. So when you remove certain foods from your diet and you add certain other foods to your diet, the inflammation is going to go down, you're going to be healthier, you're going to have more energy, you're going to feel better, you're going to have better brain function, and a lot of those little physical ailments like joint pain or dry, itchy skin, headaches, all of those are going to either reduce or even go away completely because inflammation is the culprit behind every single one of them. So, how do we take care of all of these things in one fell swoop? Simple, with the best diet in the world. So, here's what it is. I call it the keto cycling diet. Why is it the best diet in the world? Here's a couple different reasons. Number one, it tastes good and it's satisfying. Number two, it's easy to do. Number three, it's got crystal clear rules so that you can follow, so that you can know whether you're doing it or not. Number three, or number four, is it has a cheat day built in. So yes, you're going to be limiting the array of what you can eat a good part of the time, but every single week you're going to have a significant release period where you can eat whatever you want, just like a normal human being, meaning that if you want to go to IHOP and have a giant plate of pancakes with a ton of syrup on them, you're allowed to do that. And what I found is that all of those things are necessary to make it a diet that you can actually follow on a regular basis. When I say diet, it's actually more like a regimen, because this is not a diet. This is not something that you do for a certain amount of time until you slim down and lose weight, or until your energy goes up and then you go back to doing things the way that you were doing before. On the contrary, this is a regimen, which means that you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life, or at least I hope so. And if you do it for 2 or 3 weeks, what you're going to find out is that you're going to feel so good, so inspired, and your body and your brain are going to give you so much energy, so much positivity. Your immune system is going to be so powerful that you're going to see that there's really no going back, because this is better. So I'm only going to tell you very shortly what the keto cycling diet is, because I'm going to make a complete video on that with charts and everything, and I'm going to share that with you in one of the upcoming videos. And if you want that one as well, if you haven't opted in yet, put your name and email, or whichever one of those you can, in the box under this video, and I'm going to send it to you. So keto cycling, what does it mean? Well, it means that most of the time we're going to be aiming to be in a ketogenic state. So that's a very high fat, very low carb diet. And I have a very specific way of doing it, because it's not like Atkins and you can't overdose on protein, and there's a couple of things that you have to get right. But basically, most of the time we're going to be keto, but we're going to be cycling in and out of keto, and that's how we're going to get our cheat day, and it's also how we're going to do a hormonal reset, and we're going to refill our muscles with glycogen. Anyways, I don't want to geek out too much here, but I'm going to show you a way of eating. It's an eating system that is enjoyable, easy to follow, that allows you to feel like a normal human being, because on a regular basis you can eat whatever you want, even if it's totally awful stuff, and you can get away with it, and it's going to make you feel good, and it's even going to increase your IQ. And I'm going to tell you about that in one of the next videos on mental energy. You're going to see that I'm going to make the case that eating this way is going to give you so much more brain power that you will score higher on an IQ test. I guarantee it. Test it out for yourself. Okay, so that leaves us finally with supplements. And like I was saying earlier, the 80-20, everything has an 80-20. And you can't just go and take a bunch of supplements while having a horrible diet and think that that's going to make a huge difference. Supplements, as the word itself implies, means that it's extra. So when you're doing a lot of things right, and then you want that extra punch so you can have superhero levels of energy, well, that's where these 7 supplements come in. So I'll take you to my office right now, we'll have a seat, and I'll show you exactly which ones I use to turn myself on, amp things up, and have undeniable energy all day long. Let's go. Okay, you know what? We're going to continue right here. So let's talk about these 7 different supplements, and I've got one which is probably the best one of all that I'm going to mention to you at the end. So the first one is vitamin C. So listen, vitamin C is available everywhere all the time. The more of it you can get from your diet, meaning from eating fruits and vegetables and meats and good wholesome stuff that's got vitamin C, the better you're going to do. But even then it's hard to get enough, so taking a good solid dose of vitamin C on a daily basis is actually a pretty good idea, and generally speaking it'll increase your levels of energy. The next one that I want to talk to you about is Acetyl L-carnitine. Okay, so that's also called Alcar, but this is a special formulation here that's acetyl carnitine arginate. And the arginate is actually really interesting because it increases the potency of this supplement, but it also makes it so that you can grow and regenerate new nerve cells and new neurons in your brain, something previously thought impossible. But this is a great supplement both for physical and brain energy. All right, moving on. I'm going to talk to you for a couple minutes or a couple seconds about adaptogenic herbs. So what are adaptogens? Well, they're substances that are found in nature, generally produced by plants, that allow you to adapt better to stressors. Now, stressors in this case is not like having dinner at your stepmother and having her stress you out, although that can be an important source of stress. Stressors are, for example, when it's cold outside, that tells your body, hey, I don't feel good right now. And adaptogens help you have a better response to that. So they help, so for example, when you do exercise and you take adaptogens, you might produce more muscle cells, more ability to respond to the stimulus, more ability also, as I was telling you, to respond to the cold stimulus, for example. So adaptogens are definitely something that'll help you have more energy. Okay. Here's an excellent B complex vitamin from Thorne Research. And by the way, I'm not associated to any of these supplements or any of these companies, and I'm not selling any of them, so I'm not trying to make a buck. I'm just sharing with you my stack, the way that I do things so that I have my best level of energy on a daily basis. Okay, so this is a B complex. It's got a whole bunch of different B vitamins in it in high doses. And not only will it give you more energy, but it'll also help you manage stress, which is one of the energy sinkholes. Okay, so B vitamin complex. Next up, we've got coenzyme Q10. So that's a really good one, and I take that often. In fact, it's one of the top supplements for heart health, and particularly important to take if ever you're taking statins or other types of medication. And here's one that I particularly enjoy that's really similar, or actually it's another form of coenzyme Q10. It's coenzyme Q10, but it's got what's called bio-PQQ, which I'm not going to even try to pronounce what that stands for, but it's another form of coenzyme Q10 that's more active and that can actually increase the number of mitochondria that you have in your body. So mitochondria are these wonderful little energy producing factories in every single one of our cells, and the healthier they are and the more of them you have, the more energy you have, the more vitality you have, and the more ability you have to fight disease and accomplish anything that you want. So that's a really good product that takes care of that. Finally, or not finally, but almost finally, this is another product here that is full of positive adaptogens. And actually that's the one that I wanted to show you in terms of adaptogens. So rhodiola rosacea, frankincense, there's many of them that are becoming extremely popular on the market, and for good reason. This one also contains an extract of pork adrenal glands, because our adrenal glands become overworked by a stressful modern world, and sometimes it's good to replenish them and give them some of the nutrients that they thrive on. So I'm going to come back to this one here for a second, because the real reason I wanted to show you this one is because of a spectacular component that's inside of it that's called gynostemma fentaphyllum, which is in Chinese is called Jagga Lin. And it's also called the plant or the tea of eternity. And that substance itself has been shown in animal trials to have spectacular impact on the level of energy that the body can produce. Sometimes up to 40% more with just that one supplement. In India and Chinese medicine, they swear by it for a whole bunch of different reasons, from stress relief to actual cancer therapy. So it's a really good one. Jagga Lin. All right, finally, this is a wonderful supplement. I absolutely love it. I recommend this one in particular. It's made by Symphony Natural Health, but there's a whole bunch of different versions of it on the market. And what it is essentially is it's maca root. So maca root, it comes from South America. It was used by ancient cultures essentially for the most important things that they had to do. If they had to go to war and they wanted to be sure to win, they made sure to be stocking up on maca. So I've found that it has a tangible impact on my energy, and I think it'll have the same on yours. Now, you don't have to take all of those supplements. You can either take some of them, you can take none of them, or you can take all of them. Those are the ones that I take, and I can tell you that none of them are actual stimulants. So I definitely drink coffee. I love coffee. Where would I be without coffee? But the thing is, if you have too much coffee and too much other stimulants, eventually you get jittery, and yes, you get more energy, but it's a low quality energy. And in fact, the higher the low quality energy goes, the harder it is to channel it constructively in anything. So all of these supplements that I just talked about here create in your body an environment where your body just has energy. It's not stimulant energy, it's natural, clean, and clear energy, which is the kind that we want. All right, so that wraps it up for this first part of physical energy, where we talked about food and nutrition. If you feel inclined to do this at all, I highly recommend that you wait for the video that I'm going to send to you on keto cycling, because if you try the ketogenic diet in the way that most people talk about it most of the time, it's incredibly hard, it's really punitive, it feels like you're stuck and you can never get out, and I really don't think that it's right for everybody. And in fact, the reason why I'm so adamant about this one is because when I tried to teach the regular ketogenic diet to people, and when I tried it myself, I found it to be unsatisfying and I found it hard to follow. So I don't want you to get excited, start something, and then not get the results and then quit, because that would be worse than not doing it at all. This is really something I believe can change your life dramatically. So I hope that you're going to do it the right way, and I hope that you'll give me the opportunity to show you what that right way is. But we've covered a lot in this video. We've learned a lot. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and I hope that you're going to take some steps, some concrete steps to improve your level of energy so that you can kick as much butt as you see fit. All right, it's been a good one. I'm Alex Goad. Thanks for watching and listening. And remember, today counts, so behave yourself accordingly.